I'm so glad you're here. I'm Kate Champion. I'm an author, therapist, and generally curious human whose life has been full of ups and downs, twists and turns, mess and adventures, some intentional and some not so much. Welcome to Living Big Mindfully, a later in life podcast. Here are 3 questions for you. Are you ready? Are you in midlife or beyond? Or maybe struggling with next steps or finding your feet? Possibly feeling like something's missing, not quite right with your life? Or maybe you have a sense that you're really not living your own truth. Okay, you're right, that was way more than 3 questions. But were there any yes answers? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. That means that you are in the right place and this is the show for you. So grab a seat, get comfy, and join us for inspiring, heartfelt conversations. Conversations with real people just like you and me. Listen in as we chat about life, love, health, healing, and thriving well into our later years. And let's commit to creating honest, fulfilling lives and giving a high five to living big mindfully. One more thing. Make sure you visit katechampionauthor.com. Check out Never Too Late and You Are Limitless, my best-selling books. And while you're there, be sure to download your free hiking guide. And remember, check out our Living Big Mindfully community on Facebook. And please share your favorite episode with your friends. Thank you so much. Okay, that is enough for me. Are you ready? Great. Then let's dive in. Today on Living Big Mindfully, we are exploring money, retirement, financial preparedness with money educator Brittany Ballard. Brittany is a senior broker at Wealthwave who's helping people from all walks of life get their financial houses in order. So why are we talking about money today? Well, 3 things. I believe that financial health is a huge part of our overall wellness. Poor financial health can really affect our ability to live intentionally. And these are learnable skills, and I believe that it's never too late to learn. Coincidentally, this is a topic that's close to both of our hearts. We both have powerful origin stories around money, which is probably why we connected. So whether you're scratching nickels or fairly well off, this conversation has something for everyone. Brittany starts out with sharing a bit about her personal story and her why. And then we dive in talking about money. You'll learn about managing debt, saving, the power of paying yourself first, and why Social Security might not be enough. And then we focus specifically on women's financial health with some stats, forecasts, and strategies to help you get headed in the right direction. And what if you're a late starter? No problem. We've got that covered too. This episode is packed full of actionable tips and strategies, and Brittany rounds it all off with some really heartfelt sage advice. As always, you'll find links to everything in the show notes, including access to your gift copy of the book, How Money Works, which is a must-read. Brittany and I connected so deeply about this topic. I'm super excited to announce that she has agreed to be a regular guest on the show. So stay tuned for more episodes about money, financial preparedness, and how the heck all this works. Enjoy! Good morning, Brittany. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Good. This is Brittany Ballard, and I'm so excited to have her on the show today. She is a money educator. She is amazing. I've used her personally, and she's just an incredible resource. So I'm super excited about having you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I know that we've talked about a lot of things together and realized that, there's a huge deficit of, financial education. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And before we kind of connected and recorded today, we were looking at some of the statistics, especially kind of focusing on women and women's financial health. And we'll get into that later for sure. But I would love to hear a little bit about you and your why and your story and, what led you to this
amazing work that you're doing today?
Actually, I'm a huge believer in my faith, and I haven't really leaned into that until recently, especially, but I've always, kind of been faithful and really leaned into that somewhat. I'm getting a little bit more public about it, but I'll tell you, my journey is a little bit different. And I feel like every little step has led me to where I need to be. And it has molded me into who I am and has gotten me where I am. So I'm really grateful for all the trials and tribulations that I've been through. I personally was a dental hygienist. I still carry my license. I worked really hard for that degree. So kept my dental hygiene license, but I do not practice any longer. And so now I have been taught, how to really strategize and look at financial plans. And after becoming a client personally, learning some of the financial education concepts that we teach, I felt that there was a huge need. If my parents or my friends hadn't shared the information with me, there was a good chance they probably didn't know the information. So I became a believer that, I'm on a mission and I am the messenger. And that is my goal, is to really just get the information out there. There's such an overwhelm of information. If you Google things these days, or if you talk with someone, especially CPAs, attorneys, like we all have different perspectives. So it's important to have a team of professionals in your corner. So I started out as a self-employed dental hygienist. Of course, I worked retail prior to that. And once I got my degree, I worked as a dental hygienist. I moved to Dallas, Texas, and, really just started working for myself and building up a clientele, that I got to hop from office to office and fill in for other dental hygienists. And I loved it. I was making really good money right out of school as a 2-year degree. I started out at about $45 an hour. So, you can't really go to school for 2 years and make that anywhere else and have an 8 to 5 job. So I thought, wow, I'm never going to be called in on the weekends. I'm never going to have to worry about that. I can really, truly have some freedom. And once I build a family, I have that flexibility to spend with my family. It's not uncommon for people to work 2 to 3 days a week. And so that was kind of my mindset. And so I got to a point where I was fed up. I was literally fed up with myself and, the position I was in, because I had racked up so much debt in school and didn't really know how to tackle this debt. And I'd read Dave Ramsey. I'd done all kinds of different things. And I'm a really disciplined person. So I thought, well, I'm going to just stick to this and it'll work out. And unfortunately, it didn't for a number of years. So I was fortunate to cross paths with a broker who actually works with our firm, a complete stranger to me. I sat down with several other people who, I knew and that were willing to help me for a reduced cost. But I ended up working with the person who was a complete stranger to me and is now one of my very best friends. So I learned through that as a client. As I became a client, I mentioned to you, I felt the need that I needed to be spreading the word. And so I started very spare time. And eventually when COVID happened, I lost my job for about 3 months. I didn't know when we would get to go back to our jobs. So I jumped all in and I went full in. And I wish, my only regret is not doing it sooner. So I've been able to cross paths with people, and I'm finding that 95% of people, 98% of people, majority of people are just not aware of what's out there. And whether you have an advisor or you're financially set already, I encourage you to look into it, because there is a lot of opportunity that is lying around that evolves with time, especially as the market gets really competitive, that is really beneficial. So no matter where you are in your journey, financial literacy is key.
Yeah, you have an amazing story. And two, I know that, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing, you had some childhood influences too that really influenced your journey around kind of money and stability. Would you be comfortable sharing a little bit of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. I typically only share that, with someone I feel very comfortable with. So you were someone that I felt, okay, let me share this to get perspective. But I tell my clients, I tell my clients straight up, when I comprise a plan, when I'm looking at things, when I'm considering options, there's more than just strict strategy that comes with this. Like, my full heart is dedicated to this. And the reason for that, my parents were very middle, everyday average Americans, and they went to work, they did their best. They had me at the ages of 19 and 20. My mom went to school. She only completed not even one semester of college, and my dad got kicked out of high school. So, very little education, but they knew they wanted more for me. So the rightful thing they thought was to push me and encourage me, hey, go get a degree, go get something under your belt. And so we're often kind of led into those societal perspectives. And so I thought, okay, let me go to college, let me go make something of myself. And I truly thought I had made it. But when I was 18 years old, I lost my dad to suicide, and they had a will and they thought everything would be okay. And I remember having conversations with my dad very passively, where he would mention things about, I know that things are going to be left to you if something should ever happen to me and things like that. And that was not the case. And so I've learned a lot. I've gone through this process of not having money, of living paycheck to paycheck. My parents were definitely an example of that. They're incredible people. Just no one ever sat down and asked them if they could save a couple $100 a month. And so I know that would have truly changed their lives. And had it not been for that experience, I think that I may not understand it quite as well as I do today. But my dad worked at a place for about 23 years. My mom also did. And my dad lost his job. After 23 years of putting into a 401k, this company was very solid. They had new business management and ownership that came in and just mismanaged the funds. And so, unfortunately, my dad didn't get paid for 6 weeks of work. And that really put my parents in a bind. So shortly after that, my parents had some financial struggles and some marital issues. And debt and finance is actually one of the leading reasons for divorce. And so my mom pursued divorce and served my dad papers. And about 9 days later, my dad committed suicide. So I personally think that a big part of this, had he been educated, that we would have been okay financially and we could have really put a plan together to make something happen, that he probably wouldn't have felt as hurt as he did. But there was obviously a lot of love there. They were married for 20 plus years. So I personally have seen this. I've seen the insides and the outsides. I've lost a lot of people in my life. And so not only for retirement's sake did they lose 100% of their 401 when the company went under, but there's several other companies out there who have been very successful, like Enron and Blockbuster, who've also, plummeted and have cost people their jobs and cost them 100% of their retirement plans. So I encourage people all the time. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with participating in an employer offered plan, but do your due diligence and really diversify so that you're covered and protected in the event that you're in that kind of position. We also had, like I said, we had a will, and we thought that, the will would protect us, and no one contested the will. I'm an only child. We didn't have any issues with that, but it took about 10 months for the court to process that. And it was a very lengthy and costly process. So there's just so much out there that I feel, especially experiencing personally, I just want to give that back, because I'm like, please do not put yourself in this position. It is so preventable, and it's so simple, to really learn. It's very cost effective in a lot of ways, depending on what you're looking for. So.
Yeah. And I don't know, your story really, really resonates with me too. And, when I was little, like about 3, my father also committed suicide, and it was also finance, like there was a bankruptcy and some mismanagement of money. And that event in my life actually sent our family into a massive tailspin. We had nothing. My brother and I had to go live with family. My mom had to kind of re-engineer herself and get back to London, and back and forth to London and work. So, I think that's probably why I'm so passionate about this topic as well, because just to see families to really kind of, to really have to struggle on top of a massive loss, right? Because you've got the massive loss, and then you've got all the turmoil about the money and what are we going to do and how are we going to put food on the table? And like you said, it is completely preventable. Just simple life insurance. I'm not the expert, you're the expert, but just simple life insurance, some simple savings every month that can make a huge difference.
I 100% agree. I wish we were being taught these things in school more and more. I hadn't been exposed to it till I was 26 years old. And at 26, I thought, man, I had 10 years of working experience. I could have been saving a little bit. And you hear all the time, just save your money. And, it's easy to say it, but, it's a lot more difficult to do it when you're already living paycheck to paycheck. So, for me, when I sat down with someone, they were able to identify opportunities that I didn't know existed. And so that's something that I find a lot, that when I sit down with people, I sit down with people who are super well off, they're very established. I sit down with people who are scratching nickels, and so I was one of those scratching nickels type of people. And so I know I've been there, and it's not anything to be embarrassed or ashamed about. But I will say, once you know better, if you're not doing better, that's completely on you. And so you've got to really take it into your own hands, because no one else is looking out for you like you can look out for you.
Yeah, that's so true. And I have, my work is a lot. I mean, men are great. My focus is on women. And when I look at the statistics for women's financial health, right? I mean, we're looking at, 12% of women, only 12% of women feel very confident about retiring comfortably. I mean, only 12%. I mean, that number blows my mind. And the other statistics that kind of comes to mind too is like, there's only 15% of women have some kind of written retirement strategy, right? Some kind of planning, working with somebody. So what would you say to a woman, right, that maybe, is listening to our conversation today and thinking, okay, I've got to get something done, no matter where they are in the lifespan, like 30 or 40, 50, I'm 60, I've just got my ducks in a row, thanks to you, right? So what would you say to somebody that's really thinking, okay, today's the day?
So I always reflect on this kind of tall tale. You hear people say, when was the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago, but the next best time to do it is today. So, don't start with the mindset of, oh, I'm so far behind. There's actually a lot of opportunities. And right now, with the market being as competitive as it is, companies are coming out with some really influential products and accounts that, really would be advantageous regardless of where you are in life. But the longer you wait, the more challenging it gets. So we actually share with our clients a chart that shows if you're 20 years old, you start saving at the age of 67, you want to have $1 million, which we know today $1 million is not a lot of money in retirement, but you want to have $1 million as a start there. You have to save $113 a month. But as you progress with your age, by the age of 50, you have to have over $2,008 a month saved in a vehicle that's averaging 9%. So income is a really big factor. So I know that you are a very big supporter and proponent of being a business owner and just kind of taking your future into your own hands and, preventing yourself from being victim to the system in a sense of like W-2 taxes and things like that. I am too. And so I think that it's not for everyone. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but if you are an entrepreneur, take advantage of that. Especially right now, there's a lot of opportunity that was going to present in the near future. And if you're prepared and you do have your ducks in a row, then, there's only confidence that comes with that. But if you're not, start now. All it takes is a little bit. You don't have to have a lot of money to get started, but getting started is key because your money has to start working for you. Otherwise, it takes way too long for you to save $1 million. And if we could save $1 million, we would have done it by now. So you've got to really grow. You've got to really grow your money and make it work for you.
That's right. Well, what do you think? I'm curious. What do you think about kind of Social Security? What do you think about, how does Social Security play into this? I'd just be curious about what your thoughts are.
So studies show, there's statistics that they release that show Social Security is only going to sustain itself until 2037. And so that's something that we can't depend on any longer. As baby boomers are retiring, they're one of the biggest generations we have. So it will be completely exhausted by 2037. So that extra $1,000, $2,000 a month, I wouldn't necessarily depend on. But, there's options for that depending on your age and what kind of paycheck you would like to gain from that. But we pay into this system time and time again, and it's not necessarily going to be there for you. So I would say don't depend on it. If it's there, act as if it's a bonus, but really, really plan and get ahead of it as soon as you can so that you know where you're going and you know what target you're working toward.
Yeah, and I think also I read somewhere too that Social Security is only going to cover, 25, 30% of your kind of average monthly income. It's not going to cover really what your living expenses are going to be especially in retirement. So it's a piece of the pie, right? It's not the whole pie. And I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, Social Security is the whole pie, but it is just a slice. So with that, so Social Security is the slice. What other kind of slices do we need to be thinking about our retirement pie, right? Our retirement pizza pie. What are some other slices in that pie that we should be mindful about?
So as you mentioned, living expenses, cost of living is going up. Wages are not. And so if you are living on a fixed income and you're relying on Social Security, that's very minimal, you have to often think too, God forbid you don't have great health, your medical expenses will increase. A lot of the programs that are being offered, Medicare and other, supplemental type insurances, are also either expensive or they cover very minimal costs. So to be in that kind of position and only have a couple $1,000s coming in to sustain your livelihood, there's very little that you can do to treat yourself in retirement. And that's not really the life we want to live. So at that point, you may become financially dependent on your children. You might become financially dependent on, your spouse. And then what happens, if we haven't prepared, if something should happen to your spouse as well. So the studies show that women outlive men. So we as women really have to prepare for long-term care needs. No one, you may not have a spouse that's here to tend to you and take care of you if you outlive your spouse. That gives me chills thinking about that. You may have, you may be in a position where you're the provider of someone, or you've been supporting your children all along. And what happens when your income suffers? So those are things you have to think about. Other things that the other slices of the pie you mentioned, debt. A lot of us, the average American right now has over $10,000 in debt that over the next 30 years will turn into over 40 grand. And so we have to be sure that, we are being proactive with our debt. And so there's such thing as healthy debts and unhealthy debts. And so I'm just sitting down and having a plan for that as well, that you've got to save at the same time as paying down debt, because that debt money doesn't go toward anything for you. So you don't want to miss out on the factor of time. Mm-hmm. The other pie might be taxes. Taxes are huge. That's actually the number one thing that stands in people's way of gaining financial freedom. So you may be getting a tax return back at the end of the year, and that sounds fine and dandy. It's a big bonus, we feel. But what truly happens is as you earn an income, the government withdraws money from your paycheck. And if you're getting a tax return, it means the government has pulled too much money from your paycheck throughout the year. It's sitting in an account. They're utilizing the funds however they need, but they're giving it back to you without any interest accrued. So it's rid you of the opportunity to save, to pay down your debt, to, add a cushion to your living expenses. There's a lot of different advantages to learning more about taxation. So it's much more than filing taxes and more about where you're positioning your money. So we know that, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And if you're not strategic about what you're keeping and where you're keeping it, that can cost you a lot of money in retirement.
So I want to pause for a minute and I want to actually reiterate that and want really listeners to hear that. It's not about what you make, it's about what you keep, right? And I think that statement is so powerful, because that's not just taxes, right? That's interest, it's what are you paying on the credit card, it's like all those little, what I call bleeders, right? That kind of bleed, little drips that kind of bleed your money away. But yeah, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. So what if you're a little bit of a late starter, right? Or is it ever too late? Is it ever too late to start? And if you are kind of getting started a little bit late in the game, what might you suggest? How might you coach somebody?
Yes. So I have this conversation a lot, believe it or not. There are, like you mentioned, the stats are proven. It's a very, very sought after conversation. Many people that are younger, they feel they're invincible. They've got all the time in the world to save. And as you know, time comes by in a flash, so I can't even believe this year has completely flown by. So it gets that way. And people say, year after year, the older you get, the quicker it goes. And I truly believe that. And so it's easy to lose sight. But I will tell you, if you're in that red zone, if you're in that retirement zone where you have about 10 years till retirement, there's actually opportunities out there that will allow you to have a guaranteed stream of income based on where you're putting your money. So it's never too late. It is never too late. You've got to get creative and really work with someone who knows how to navigate your financial journey, because it's kind of like going to a city you've never been to. It may take you hours to figure out the hot spots that you'd want to find. But if you met up with a local, they could share with you, all of the hot spots to go to and save you a lot of time and allow you to get more of the experience in a shorter amount of time. So same thing for your financial journey, going through a maze that someone has already navigated and knows how to get through, and have someone hold your hand through that is really important. Don't do this on your own. Get multiple opinions. Do your own research, whatever, ask questions. The goal is really to make sure that you're getting started. So there's tons of solutions. Some you've probably never even heard of that have been out for 30 plus years and that wealthy people are using. So one of the big things that I did a rabbit hole research project on myself was, what are the wealthy doing? The wealthy, there's really just two tax systems. There's really just two education systems. And one is you're just either uneducated, you hadn't had exposure, or you have had exposure and you are educated. I meet with people all the time who are very well off and they don't know the basis of money. So teaching them some of these concepts are like, wow, okay, now they can really put their money to work because they're understanding how it does work. So whether you have the money or you don't, understanding how it works, I always say, you can't win. Like if you're playing a board game, you can't win the game if you don't know the rules. Someone else is going to have one up on you and know how to play the game more strategically. So of course, the more you get in it, the better you get, the more you know how to navigate. So same thing with this. A lot of times we're overwhelmed with the amount of information on the internet, and you have people who are putting out articles that are biased one way or the other. Same as Apple versus Android, which way do we go? You're going to see negative and positive of every account. That's why it's important to really have a custom plan so that you know what is imperative to you and how to get to your goal. Your goal is different than anyone else's. So there's a lot of really cool strategies. There's a lot of competition between companies. They want your business. So they're going to add additional benefits and give you incentives to participate in some of their accounts. So it's really pretty neat.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it is an education, right? I mean, I think that, we educate ourselves about health. We educate ourselves about wellness. We educate ourselves, if we're going to go to another country and do a trip abroad, right? But, we have to educate ourselves about this money thing. And I think people have a lot of baggage, right? About money, talking about money, sharing about money, but it's truly vital, right? Get yourself educated, find the tools, find somebody you can work with that you can trust, and just kind of get started, right? Get started. So I'm wondering with listeners, if you could share a couple of kind of concrete kind of tips and strategies that they could just even begin today. What would a couple of those might be, kind of off the top of your head? Some concrete kind of tips and strategies.
I would say knowing your numbers is really important. So, just like when you book a flight somewhere, you know what time the boarding starts, what time the flight takes off. That's going to ensure that you make it there on time and you really get there. So same thing with your budget. Sit down and really map out and be conservative. If you know that you have a bill coming in, it's your electric bill and it's anywhere from $80 to $90 a month, we'll aim for $90 as a deduction in your budget. Go high on that, but go low on income, and be really conservative in your numbers so you know, okay, what's coming in and what's going out. How can I control these things? So a lot of the opportunity, as I mentioned, is really just not even in your living expenses. It's taxes and debt and other things that are sucking your time, your energy, your money. And so we've got to get really intentional and know our numbers. You got to know your interest rates on your credit cards. You have to know what your minimum payment is and, what that looks like. Same on your card payment. You've got to really lean into understanding what it is that you have in front of you. There's tons of options and opportunities out there. So I had the mindset of, and I truly think that it is mindset. I had the mindset that, I owe all this money from student loans and from all this credit card debt that I racked up in school. I can't start saving until I pay all that off. And
well, you hear that. That's actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's one of those strategies. You hear like, don't save anything, pay off the debt first, and then start saving. I mean, I've heard that as a strategy. So I'm super curious about that. So tell me more.
So I did that, right? I mentioned to you, I did that for 9 years. And I looked at it and I thought, man, I didn't save a dime for myself, but I made it a priority to pay someone else. You've got to pay yourself first. And I thought to myself, well, how do I pay myself first if I don't have any money to pay myself? And so honestly, I mean, that was the thought. And so for 9 years, and as I sat down with somebody, as I mentioned, he identified areas of opportunity I did not know existed. And so I immediately started saving $200 a month for myself after navigating through a plan that was comprised for me while also paying down debt. You have to pay your debt down. But wealthy people utilize debt as a advantageous strategy for funding. They use other people's money because it's the only form of money that is not taxed. And so it's not taxed as income. It's not taxed as any of that. So there are some strategic ways to borrow money at lower interest rates. And if you're in a position where you feel like, well, I can't get a low interest rate because I have so much debt, you probably need to get in front of someone who knows a little more about credit and really navigate a debt management program with a credit expert, and which we also have on our team, and someone who can really assist you in saving for yourself at the same time. But you don't want to rid yourself of the opportunity of time, especially if you're in that red zone, because the essence of time is so imperative for retirement.
Yeah. So I love that. So I want people to hear that too. Pay yourself first, right? Pay. And I love that strategy. And I've actually been using that for a long time. I'll put straight off my income, my monthly income, I'll put X amount of dollars, goes straight off the top into kind of a savings account. So I have been embracing that, but I know a lot of people don't. So I want to emphasize two things. Pay yourself first, and at the same time, paying down debt, right? So it's a yes, and it's not an either or, right? I think that's a really important concept.
Right. Yeah, it cost me a lot of time. I look back at numbers now and having this software to look at it, and I'm like, man, like 10 years of time, where could I be, So
yeah, because we're talking about what you're talking about here is compound interest, right? You're talking about the magic of the compounding interest, right? And even at 5 or 6% over, $200 over 10 years with that 5 or 6%, I mean, that's substantial, right?
That's right. And it just starts with a little bit. You don't have to have a ton of money. So yeah, it's really pretty neat. There's just a lot of things that even outside of compounding interest, but compounding interest is the golden ticket, so it's like, why wouldn't you want to compound money and not take any risk necessarily, or even do take risk, but over time have some money growing in your favor, just like your creditors are doing. They're utilizing compounding. Why don't you?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So the banks are making it work. The compound interest, they're working in their favor. So let's make compound interest work in our favor, right? That's right. Yeah, it works both ways. It's just a mathematical equation, right? It works both ways.
Right. Honestly, it's like if you just take what the wealthy are doing, they're making money. If you just take that and duplicate it, do some research on executives and publicly traded companies and see where they're putting their money and why they're putting their money there. Of course, they might have a different position than you, so that's where partnering with someone to really offer assistance comes in. But don't just stop at one opinion, like get multiple opinions. Really make sure that you're confident in your plan and that you know how it works and how to best utilize it. I think that's what I appreciate most about you is you come to me with tons of questions. And I love that. I'm like, you have to know how this stuff works, so it's important. If you're putting your entire life savings in some place, you better know how it works. Don't rely on Betsy, your financial advisor, to take care of your money. And then what happens when Betsy's not here? What are you going to do? So it's really important.
I'm laughing because I must have driven Brittany crazy. So many questions, so many calls, but I have to tell you that's powerful, right? That she she walked me through it all, right? She was patient and graceful, and she walked me through it all. So I appreciate you. Thank you. And I learned so much. So too, I've learned so much, right? And I feel actually really confident. So now I have a plan. I have a life insurance strategy. I have a savings kind of strategy thing. I have long-term care dialed in. And as soon as I kind of signed on the line, and it's like, okay, I actually felt like, yeah, this is good. This is good. So there's a lot of kind of, I'm not going to say anxiety, but there's just a lot of like, right? Because it's money, right? So there's a lot of kind of like energy around, is this right? Is this wrong? But once I did it, it was definitely a good thing for me. So thank you.
It's a big decision. Yeah, it's a big decision. You should feel confident before making a move 100%. So no, I feel like anytime you have a question, you come to me. Like, this is a service, I want to provide customer service to you and let you have the answers, because I'm the expert in the field, right? So same thing with what you do. I don't know half of what you know about what you do. And if I had questions, I would go to the expert. I would ask, I study this stuff all day, every day. I talk with conversations all day. And so, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. And I love that. I want to educate. I want to teach. And now you're on your podcast giving this information to the general public, and people have never experienced even sitting down with an advisor. So it's very important to get the word out and really just make it impact as much as you possibly can. And you're doing that. So I appreciate you doing that.
So impact is also access, right? Like, people have access now, right? They can, all the links will be in the show notes today. Brittany has a great book. It's How Money Works. So you'll have access to that. It's free. So it's a free resource. Again, all her links, contact information will be in the show notes. So just reach out, right? It doesn't cost a dime to reach out and have a 30-minute conversation. So anybody out there that's really thinking, oh, should I or shouldn't I, or I haven't, just get connected with Brittany and just have a conversation. Super helpful. Yeah. So as we wrap up today, is there anything else? So 2 questions. Is there anything else you want to share? And then I want to ask you the final kind of sage advice question. Anything else you want to share or cover today?
There's one more thing I'd like to address. It just came to mind. I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and she is reluctant because she's 63 years old. And so we talk about waiting, and the cost of waiting, and is it ever too late? And this just came to mind. So she said, I don't know. I just have this money, and we've moved a lot of her money already, but she has very limited funds. And I'm really trying to educate her so that we can get her money growing as quickly as we can for her. And we're just working against a timeline at this point in income. So we talked about things, and she said, well, I'm just scared and yada, yada. And I said, you're scared money doesn't make money. And so, and we laughed, of course it was funny, but it was like, I said that not to say, you're making the wrong decision. That's not how I meant that. But we have a really close relationship. And what I mean by that is there is something for everyone out there. You don't have to be risky in the market. You don't have to necessarily put your money in a savings account where it's not growing, but you want access to it. There's tons of options out there. And so, as I mentioned, there's literally something for everyone. You can even customize plans for yourself. So I encourage you, look into something for yourself, and don't let fear stand in your way, because, half the time the things you're worried about never really come to fruition. And, then you worry about it twice, if it comes to that. So the idea is, just be brave, do it for you. I'm sure, especially as women who are listening to this, you sacrifice so much for everyone else, and you put a lot of weight on your shoulders. The very least you can do is prepare for yourself and for your family. And so if you truly do care about your family and really putting them first, and your friends and whomever that might be in your life, do it for you, because it's only going to benefit your family as well. So it's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I do really feel like this kind of health, finance is part of health, right? That is part of our health wheel, right? Physical health, mental health, spiritual health, financial health is part of our whole wellness wheel. So it is a big piece of, what we need to be thinking about, for sure. Yeah, for sure. All right. So the final question is, if you had one piece of sage advice about kind of living really intentionally around money, what would you tell listeners? What would you share?
I think the biggest thing that I haven't discussed, and I've mentioned just a little bit, that I think is the most important thing, is it's all about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe you're never going to get to a certain place, you've already determined you're not. So you've got to believe that you're getting someplace and there is value and that there is an opportunity to make and will things to happen. You can manifest things. You can, and whether you believe in that or not, like, I encourage you to think your thoughts, write them down, speak them out loud every day, speak your goals every day, financial goals as well, because it will come, and there is a level of abundance on this planet. And if you believe that that abundance will come to you, it will. And if you believe that education will come to you, it will. And you've just got to be open to receiving that. And if your mindset is in it and you truly believe, I'm deserving of this and I can make this happen, that's 90% of the battle. So I sit down with people all the time who are just not their mindset isn't there. They believe that they should follow the same things their parents have. Well, I've never had money. My parents never had money. We lived on paycheck to paycheck. We didn't have AC. We didn't have electricity. We didn't have this or that. We lived in a car. I've heard so many stories. And so just deciding, hey, I've been given this life today and I have an opportunity to change my trajectory is the first step. So I would encourage you to really, lean into personal development, read books, invest in yourself. That's your best investment that you can, participate in. So that, I think, is number one.
No, I love that. And I just, so mindset and really leaning into yourself and being open, right? Open to abundance, right? Open to, it's kind of coming my way. Yeah. 100%. Thank you. Wow. This has been so helpful. I've really enjoyed connecting with you today. I really appreciate your time. You're doing a great service. And again, the book will be in the show notes, How Money Works. So tell little listeners about where they can connect with you.
So I'm on Facebook. It's Brittany Ballard, Brittany Ballard. I'm on there, and I also have, of course, an Instagram. It's Ballard_Brittany. I'm way more active on Facebook, but I've got a couple websites that you're welcome to browse and just take some education pieces from. I've got a Facebook page that's primarily How Money Works. It's Brittany Ballard HMW, stands for How Money Works. And then I've also got, as you mentioned, the free book. If you are listening and you want a copy of a free book, feel free to reach out to Kate or reach out to myself. We are more than happy to get you a free book. They sell on Amazon for about $18, but we are more than happy to give you a free copy with no strings attached. So that's something we really just want to make an impact on this planet. And by giving the education, I think that's the beginning of what can be a beautiful journey for you and other people. So you can also find me on wealthwave.com/Brittany Ballard or howmoneyworks.com/Brittany Ballard. The How Money Works website, the /Brittany Ballard is one for clients, and it takes you through compounding interest. It takes you through there's a quiz on there. It's a 5-question quiz. It takes about 5 minutes to do, and it will gauge how financially literate you are. When I first took that quiz, I made a 20%. So if you get a higher score than me, great for you. But, seriously, most people get below a 40%. So for me to have come this far, like, if I can do it, so can you. And I encourage you just to investigate, look into things, and really seek things out. Opportunities are out there. Just open your eyes to them because they are there to assist you.
Fantastic. And all great resources. I just said personally, I've had the How Money Works book. I've read it. My son's read it. My husband's read it. It's a great read. It's super easy, super simple. So highly recommended. Again, I'll put all those links in the show notes. So thank you, Brittany. It's been great. I really appreciate your time today. And hopefully we can have you back on the show and we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your time. I love to hear from listeners, so connect with me at katechampionauthor.com Remember to grab your free hiking guide, and please take a quick moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Thanks so much. Take care. Until next time. Hey, me again. Just a reminder, this podcast should not be considered professional advice. It's also not a substitute for mental, physical, or any other healthcare-related treatment. For any questions about your condition and or concerns, please contact a fully licensed healthcare professional. Thank you.